when it comes to health, there is no finished. It's like being finished having a loving relationship with your partner or your children. You're not done with that, and you're not done being healthy. It's something that you continue to work on. There is no reality where someone is going to just diet their way into fat loss, go back to doing what they were doing before, and maintain that new reality.
Hello, everyone. Our topic today is mindset mastery. What do you need to kind of have in your mindset toolbox to make what you're working on a long-term successful journey for you? Not a short-term, what's that saying, like flash in the pan. We want something that is long-term sustainable. And I think you probably know by other podcast episodes and by engaging with us in the community, the two of us really value that mindset piece. Not just how do I fast and what foods work for me, but how do I think? What sets me up for making decisions that help me? How do I support myself? So this is why we're focusing on this topic today. Heather, would you like to start with one, or would you want me to start with one?
Like you said, this is absolutely a front runner topic for both of us. And I think when we were talking with Dr. Fung, both of us made it a point to say, this is 95% of this game, right? I focus on weight loss. And when I'm working with my clients, I know that it is not hard to teach someone to change the way that they're eating, how to fast. These are not tough skills to master. Mastering your mind is a very tough skill. I have to point out that one thing that wasn't what was necessary for me to get to the place of my weight loss has been fundamental for me in my maintenance mindset, and that is meditation. And so I wanted to bring up that topic because it's something that I think about a lot. It's something that I recommend a lot. And the reason I do is because the best definition of mindset that I've heard recently is the stories we tell ourselves. What we have churning in our head on a regular basis really sets the tone for the choices that we make for the day and the behaviors and the actions that we take. Getting control over those stories is, I think, a fundamental skill if you want to have mindset mastery. And the practice of meditation or metacognition, thinking about thinking, is one that helps you not live your life in a state of reaction. Life's just happening to me and my thoughts are just a natural consequence of, it's happening. I'm a victim. The world is just coming my way and I have no choice but to turn away over the thoughts that happen as a consequence. Whereas when you start to practice meditation and when you start to sit with your thoughts and recognize that they are separate and you have some control over whether you dance with them or let them be, then you start to realize, oh, wait, it's not just on the cushion that I can decide to dance with these thoughts. I can, in real life, in real time, decide, you know what? That's not serving me. The choice that I might make as a result of churning on that will not serve me. So what if I separated myself from that emotion and that experience and instead decided to center myself and make a different choice and take a different action? I truly think that fundamental skill is what is helping me continue to evolve as a person that is making healthy choices and as a person that is, I feel, doing a really good job at conquering maintenance. And so it's something that I encourage and invite everyone to consider getting that control over their mind with an ancient practice that has good evidence that it can help you do that.
I love it. And not one I would have thought of. So I love that you focused on that. Such an important thing. I was saying this in a meeting the other day. If you think about what we do at TFM, why do we bring in the people that we bring in? Why are the coaches who they are? Because everyone brings different skill set and different contributions that they make. Why did we bring Coach Jamie in? Because this was a huge missing piece, this focus on this meditative piece, this self-awareness, pausing, such an important piece. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a different vein. And I think it's important to recognize that the people we have with us here today are people who are lifetime members, meaning you all have already made a commitment that you want to see support long term. You know that you need connection with people and a place to keep yourself accountable long term, not short term. And I think for all of us, this is such an important piece that we are committing to a long term journey. This is not a 3-month journey. This is not a 6-month journey. You may make the progress you want to make in a certain length of time, but making that progress, getting to goal, really does nothing for keeping you there if you don't have a mindset that these are behaviors I'm going to focus on for the rest of my life. Now, whenever I say that, I always clarify, I don't mean that you are going to have to do 3 42-hour or 2 66-hour, whatever, fasts every week for the rest of your life. But the mindset about how do I support my body? How do I take care of me? Wow, my nervous system is all activated right now. How do I calm that? If we go back to our old ways of doing it, we're going to turn back to the old problematic relationship with food that we've had for many years, the problematic food or eating behaviors that we've leaned on to help us in the past. We're going to go right back there. And this is partly why so much of the data about weight loss is that people don't sustain it because we go back to those old habits. We've got to be looking at this is my long-term commitment to myself. I didn't just do some really hard things for a few months. I am doing things from now on that support my body in what it needs so that it can be at a healthy weight, that it can carry me into a long, healthy, thriving life without chronic illnesses or medications and things. So really taking this as that long-term sustainable approach. We can't just burn ourselves out and do something really fantastic for a short period of time. We've got to be looking at this is how I will live for the rest of my life, supporting my body, nurturing my body, giving my body opportunities to heal. So that's one of my biggest mindset mastery tips.
So I was thinking of two things as you were talking about that. The first thing I was thinking about was the arrival fallacy. This idea that once we get somewhere, that's it, we'll have arrived, we're done, right? So people have that feeling like once I graduate from college, once I get the husband or the house or the kids or whatever, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happy. I'll be done. I'll be finished. And sometimes we have that feeling around weight loss. Like, oh, I just got to get through. I just got to diet and do the things. And once I hit my goal weight, then, ooh, careful with that, right? Like there is no there. There's no finish line there. It's a waypoint. Hooray! And then you keep on going. You don't just sit down and you're done. And that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which is the second thing I thought of, which is from a business guy named Rory Vaden. And he says that success is never owned, it's rented, and the rent is due every day. When it comes to health, there is no finished. It's like being finished having a loving relationship with your partner or your children. You're not done with that. And you're not done being healthy. You know, it's something that you continue to work on. There is no reality where someone is going to just diet their way into fat loss, go back to doing what they were doing before, and maintain that new reality. That's just not what happens when people don't have that permanent mindset shift that Terri and I are talking about. We see it over and over again. The weight just comes right back on with friends. We'll hear people leave the community and say, oh, like life got in the way and here came 35, 50 pounds back. And then they come back and then they're like, lifetime member. I'm going to be a lifetime member. I don't want to do that anymore. There's something to be said for understanding and accepting that if you spent decades with this monkey on your back and this problematic relationship with food, you're probably not going to solve that in a few months. Okay, done, fixed it. Okay, probably not. Probably going to be an iterative process that takes months and years to gradually transform. And that process is made so much more doable and manageable when you're with a whole bunch of other people that are doing it too.
Absolutely. You want another one or you want me to share one?
Well, I don't know. I feel like that was one.
That was big.
I will say this because it was another thing that I really wanted to bring up today. I kind of touched on it when I talked about meditation because I really am a huge fan. I'm a huge Jamie fan, huge meditation fan. It is the idea of our identity, which is something you and I talk about a lot. I think sometimes people come with an identity, and we have also talked a lot about fixed versus growth mindset. When people come to us, sometimes they have this pattern of speaking about themselves, whether it's I'm a carb addict or a sugar addict, or whether it's I always fail, I always regain, whatever I am statement that just seems like a very firm fact that they're not questioning anymore. Those are those identity statements that are real tricky and should be a little concerning and questioned. What I don't want anyone to feel I'm saying when I say that your identity can be changed is that it's changed easily. Because while I do think it's a choice and a decision to change how you see yourself, I also think that that decision does need to be backed up with action. And I think that it circles back on itself. An example of what I'm saying is, an identity of I'm a carb addict and I always regain the weight. You don't have to continue to live with that identity, but also the only way you're going to convince yourself that that isn't who you are is by behaving differently. Fortunately, you can decide to behave differently. You can take the leap of faith. Well, I've never acted that way consistently before. That doesn't mean it's not possible. And so you start acting in such a way. And as you do, as James Clear, you're making votes for the kind of person that you want to be. So as you take on Couch to 5K, as you take on time restricted eating, as you take on no sugar, no grains, or any other little challenge that some are big. So any other challenge that you set for yourself, as you do the thing and you show up for it, suddenly there's incongruence between that old identity and the one that you are creating. You can't say that you're not the kind of person that does those things whilst doing them. And so as you take those actions and they start to show you who you really are, that's when the shift happens. And so when people come to us and they're frustrated that they know that they don't want that identity, they know they don't want to think of themselves that way, but they still do. And they're still acting sometimes in such a way, and they're mad at themselves for still doing that stuff. And they just think that they should be able to turn it off. That's not how this works at all. It's like a spectrum, and we're gradually easing ourselves over, killing out that old self, giving birth to the new self. And that takes time and iteration, and it takes reps. And that doesn't mean we're never going to show the colors of the identity we've lived with for years. It's still there. It's still going to show up, and that's okay. It got us here. It wasn't all bad. And so as we are able to take those new actions and build that new identity, it'll gradually become less and less of who we are, and our new selves will blossom and grow, and we will show ourselves what we've been capable of this whole time.
I love that. And it leads into my next tip. And this also ties back to what I said earlier about a lifetime commitment. Something that I've become really aware of with clients over time is that I'm going to use these two terms. What is our norm and what are anomaly behaviors, things that don't happen very often. And many of us may be able to relate to this, that when we weren't fasting or when we just ate whatever kind of floated our boat at that moment, unhealthy was our norm. Overeating was our norm. Ultra processed food was our norm. All of these things. And then occasionally we did this really healthy thing. And I can think of so many examples when I was so pleased with myself that I went to a restaurant and I ordered a salad. That was the anomaly for me because every choice I made was so unhealthy. That was my norm. Ordering a salad, I felt like someone's going to come through pretty soon and give me some kind of an award because I did something healthy for myself. If we flash forward to now, it's like reversing these. Now my norm is I eat the foods that work for my body, whether I'm at a restaurant, at a friend's house, on vacation, in my own home, whatever it is. It is my norm now to nourish myself in a way that works. It is an anomaly to eat something that's really off track. And to me, Heather, this ties back into what you said because we're not going to be perfect, folks. We are not going to have every single food choice we make, every single time of whether to eat or not to eat, to go perfectly in our future. But the times when they are off track, I like to think of those are becoming the anomalies. They are not the norm anymore. The norm is solid. This is how I eat. This is what I eat. This is why I eat. And every now and then I make a different choice because I'm at Disney World or whatever it is. But switching the unhealthy being the norm to an occasional healthy choice being the anomaly and switching those, that you are primarily doing things that are nutritionally sound and supportive to your body, healing and being healthy. And then on occasions, you will make a choice that are more problematic, but then you go right back to your norm because those things aren't how you do it anymore. This goes to also what you said, Heather, these are the identities we create. If I shared on social media at some point that I went to Barcelona last summer and everyone I was with was eating dessert every day. I did not because that's not how I eat. And I didn't feel like I was being restricted or that, geez, Barcelona's no fun without dessert, because that's not how I navigate things anymore. But if I had chosen to have a dessert, it would have been more the anomaly. Whereas everyone else on the trip, it was the norm. They did it every day, twice a day sometimes. So I just encourage people to be thinking about what norms are you now leaning into and what are the anomaly behaviors? Because we should not feel guilty about those. We should not shame ourselves for making those decisions. We just want to keep the balance in the proper proportions for us now as compared to how they were in the past.
You brought something up when you were talking about that I'm glad that you did, because that's exactly what I was thinking was when you said that I didn't feel restricted. Because I think sometimes people hear us say that we're okay with it, right? Like it's not just I've got a will of steel and I'm just going through life resisting everything and that's just my new superpower that I've gleaned after all of this time. No, it's not like I'm going into restaurants, into holidays, and into things and feeling restricted and feeling deprived. It's feeling normal. Not eating that stuff feels like the right choice, feels like the good choice. I don't even care. I don't want to dance with foods that don't serve me anymore. And that's the part that I think people just don't believe. Like, I cannot imagine a scenario where I would not want to eat the thing, right? That's how, if that's your norm, if eating the thing persistently and consistently is your norm, then it maybe sounds like Terry and I are crazy or we're built different. And that's why. No, no, no. Terry and I are not built different. Terry and I both danced with those foods plenty before we came to the fasting method. But it's one of those things that you got to experience to believe. You've got to live the life before you get to earn the wisdom that when you stop eating foods that don't serve you and that are actively making you sick, surprisingly, that good feeling that your body starts to experience and that sense of lightness and energy and well-being that come from eating nutritious whole foods as opposed to processed crap, it feels different and you prefer that feeling over the old one if you're paying attention. And that's going to circle right on back to mindfulness, right? Because I think sometimes people are like, how do I get this mindset y'all are talking about? Can I order that? Is that available on Amazon? No, right? You've got to be present. It's a practice. It's something that Terry and I have both worked on even before meditation for me, being very present, being very mindful, journaling, doing some mindset work, if you will. I'm a big fan of goal setting. I'm a big fan of visualization and affirmation. And I'm a big fan of touch and base with our wins. What went well? What went well? What went well? What do I want to reinforce and encourage myself to keep doing? That's work. It requires intention and effort. And it doesn't happen by accident. You've got to decide to work on that stuff.
The other thing you highlighted in there, Heather, is that it's not a lack of want that makes me not have those things. Every now and then, I will have someone say, well, man, it must be nice to be you because you just don't want those things anymore. Are you kidding me? I would eat ultra processed crap every meal of the day right now if that worked for me. If that allowed me to have the health that I want to have, if that allowed me to have the weight where I want it to be, I would. I love those things. I don't know that I'm ever going to let go of that want or desire. But what you highlighted, Heather, is that I want something more than that. Being healthier, being at a weight where I feel mobile in my body and active, that is more important to me than how much I want them in that moment. And as you said, that took a lot of work. That wasn't an overnight flip of a switch for me. That took a lot of work. And it gets easier. It's more and more clear to me what I want as I've gotten some more distance from them. So I think we're sharing a brainwave here, Heather. I love it.
The last thing I want to say about that is that idea of making a trade, which is something I talk about a lot with weight loss, is we're making a trade. There is a healthier body that exists for us in our future, but we need to be willing to make a trade to meet her. And sometimes the trade is going to a party and saying no thank you. Sometimes it's saying no thank you to the carby things that they put on the table at the beginning. Sometimes it's saying okay to hunger that you prefer to squash with food. So there's a lot of trades, a lot of payments to be made in order to earn that transformation. And you got to decide, each and every one of you, for yourself if you're willing to make the trades.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move into the next part of this program here. So we're going to call in some people who have put some questions in the Q&A. You want to go ahead and tell us your question, Lisa?
I just rejoined as a lifetime member. I'd been away for a couple of years and in maintenance and everything. And what is still coming to me is, besides the fact that I figured out I'm a bear, and every winter I gained about 10 pounds and, getting ready to hibernate, and then I can work it back off. There's this voice in my head, even though I have a very strong spiritual practice every day, an hour or so of reading and journaling and meditation and everything. So, yay, Heather, I'm a huge fan. But there's still this voice in my head that says I'm not perfect. I still have some back fat. But it's getting to that feeling comfortable in my skin, feeling comfortable that knowing that I'm good enough. Those are the things I'm still working at. And those are the things why I rejoined the community. So I can continue to hear those things. It's a big deal. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a very big deal. And thank you for sharing that and allowing yourself to be vulnerable with us. One of the things I'm going to highlight, and this is a podcast episode, this is a podcast episode inside of a podcast episode, but Heather and I did a podcast episode a long time ago when Heather was a client. And we talked about a practice that she had been saying negative things. Heather, I don't know if you want to tell the story or, but I think there are ways to change that for sure, Lisa. You want to share any of that, Heather?
Sure, I will. I will. Lisa, my practice before Terri's my coach. If you weren't aware of that, she coached me through my weight loss. When I came to her, my practice was every morning, I would look at my naked body in the mirror and just run down everything that was wrong with it. Just, bit by bit, let's just catalog it up so we can go ahead and suffer about it and then get on the scale and berate ourselves for that number as well. I did that every day. I don't even know how long, years. That was it was a daily, just not a great ritual. And I brought it up to Terri because of a conversation that happened in a community meeting. And Terry's like, gosh, we should maybe work on that, right? And so her recommendation to me at that time was, okay, maybe instead of cataloging all the things that are wrong, how about you start thinking of 3 things that are right with your body that you can be grateful for as a mother of 3? How about the body that gave birth to your children, the body that nourished them, as a breastfeeding mother, etc., the body that got me as far as it did. She also asked that I look myself in the eyes and say, I love you to my face. If you've never done that, everyone, that is a hard thing to do the first time. It is so cringy and it feels so awkward. The fact that it does when you are the person that is with you every day in a world that is chaotic and maybe where many of us go through bouts of loneliness, the fact that we can't even say I love you to ourselves is a little problematic, I think. But I listened to her. I started that practice because she told me you can't heal a body that you hate. And I believed her. And so working on loving my body is, I think, probably the most important and integral part of my being able to lose my weight because I truly believe that loving myself first is what enabled me to take the actions necessary to reach my goal. So I love my body by nurturing it, by exercising it, by resting it, by saying kind things to it, by saying I love you to my face. I started that practice when she recommended. I have not stopped, right? That was 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. Now, holy goodness, it's been a long time. April 30th, 2022 is when I joined the fasting method. It morphed. It's now what I say to myself every single day. I love you. I will take care of you. And this number does not define you before I get on the scale because I still do weigh daily. And I got to tell you, in the beginning, did I believe it? No. No. Do I now? Yes. And that's what I was talking about and Terri was talking about when we talked about the work of mindset is you don't get to just flip a switch and love yourself unconditionally if you haven't. But over time, it's real hard to have someone look you in the eye and say, I love you every day, and to treat you well, and to rest you, and to exercise you, and to nourish you, and to over time not start to believe her.
Thank you. That is very meaningful. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I want to just add one thing. I think sometimes people struggle with if I work on accepting myself, does that then mean there's no reason to keep going or keep doing more? And I think we can love ourselves and want to take care of ourselves in ways that we will still see maybe things look different. Maybe my clothes will fit differently if I keep taking care of myself. I think it's important to shift from, all right, I've got to make that back fat disappear. How am I going to do that? Because we often move into more of a punitive thing. Well, I'm going to do longer fasts then because that back fat has to go. Like we just start getting into this not working with our body as a teammate kind of mentality. As Heather shared what she shared, it becomes so clear when you're really aligned and supporting your body, you open up ways that it can keep changing. And the beauty is, even if it doesn't change, you're not being critical of it. You're not devaluing it because we still have some back fat. You start to accept that my body is this temple that I get to be in. I'm going to start to honor it. So, Lisa, I really appreciate you coming in. Great question. I hope that thinking about it will help you and other people who are here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, both of you. And I am so grateful that I'm here.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. I think we've talked about this, but I think we can give a little bit of an added bonus to this, answering this specifically. So, Anna, I'm going to grab you in.
Just pulled her right in. Was she even ready? Were you ready, Anna?
Yeah, my question was about how did you get over the fear of missing out on that fun junk food when you go out to eat with friends? You kind of covered a little bit of this, but I wanted to know, did you really have to have some weight loss victory first before you were able to really solidify that behavior and that thinking in your brain?
A great question.
You start, Terri. Let's hear your answer.
All right. I'll start. It's funny because I just had a conversation with a client around this kind of theme earlier. For me, I would say no, I didn't start with the progress first, but I'm not saying that that doesn't make sense. Because for me, I started this whole journey by doing a whole 30, which I turned into a whole 100 because I knew 30 days was not going to get me as far as I needed to get to really get some traction. So because I had that very clear set of parameters around what I was going to do and what I wasn't going to do, I, at that time, felt like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I want it. It doesn't matter. I have made this commitment. Now, obviously, later down the road, I started questioning it more and I had more debates in my head and more complicated discussions around this. And I know that possibly when either of us say this, it makes it sound easier than it actually is. It has gotten easier for me, but even if I had no progress right now, what I want for my life, quality of life, is so important to me. And what I now know is I'm going to miss out on bigger fun than just having some fancy food in a restaurant with friends or something if I don't commit to this. Missing out on that short term, in the moment fun or excitement or pleasure means I have so many more opportunities for other pleasure. I started skiing a few years ago. I wouldn't be able to do that if I weren't taking care of my body. And missing out might be the way people say it on some of those moments. I went out for my birthday with friends and they brought a dessert to the table. Everyone else ate the dessert, and I just enjoyed my coffee and kept laughing with my friends. So, missing out on that small pleasure for me pales in comparison to what bigger things I would be missing out on if I didn't make that decision. So, again, like Heather said, it's a trade. I'm trading this small moment of fun and pleasure for bigger pleasures and comforts in life. Fewer medications, fewer medical treatments that you may have to engage. So for me, it definitely goes back to that trade that, yep, it does feel like a little bit of a sacrifice, but such a worthwhile sacrifice because it brings me so much else.
Yeah. And that is the kind of the advanced thinking, trying to go back to that beginner's mind. And, even the first time I gave up carbs in 2000 or whatever, and then when I gave them up again, when I joined the fasting method, when I say carbs, I'm talking about sugar, refined grains, things. I didn't do a whole 30, but that idea of abstinence is one that has always been, well, in the times that I've done, the two major times that in my life that I've done it, that for me was the only way. There just wasn't any dancing, just a nibble, just a taste. That is just not how I'm made. And so for me, it's like that big, hard, firm line. That's an absolute no for me in all circumstances. When I was really kind of locked in, I do think that made it so much easier than to just stop at a bite, right? I think there's so much more willpower required at stopping at a bite than to just say no. And so that was my foray. That's how I got the ball rolling, was just no. I'm not eating that. That's why I love a no sugar, no grains challenge. That's why I love a Whole30. That's why I encourage people to consider elimination diets, do a carnivore for a month or whatever, just to feel what it's like to have it out of your system, feel what it's like for 30 days straight. Every single restaurant, every party, every event. It's not just this. No, it's a no, a no, a no, a no. And I got to tell you, I really think that when you have that whole lineup of opportunities to meet the challenge, and you do, it just really teaches you what you're capable of. It goes back to that identity piece, because if every single time is a negotiation with your lower brain, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, and I really wish I hadn't done that, right? It's not up for debate if it's a hard no, if it's a 30-day challenge. I'm going to see what I'm capable of. Do I have it or not? And I bet you do. I think that is more defining and more motivating and shows you more possibility than the one at a time, let's decide how I feel tonight kind of thing. That's too hard. That's way harder than I'm setting a boundary and I'm going to just be rock solid. I can do anything for 30 days. My mom used to say that all the time. Heather, you can do anything for 30 days, right? Or whatever the time frame was. She used it for any time frame. 3 years, you can do anything for 3 years. Don't worry about it, right? So yeah, that's how I would approach it, with an all-in approach, recognizing we're human, we make mistakes, we forgive ourselves, we move on. But if you go into it with all in, I really think that most of us will rise to the occasion, and then you start to see, oh, it's not that bad. Like, I love going to a restaurant and having somebody do the cooking and the cleaning and to bring me a napkin, and to fill my water. I love that. I love being with friends. I love wearing nice clothes and being shiny, right? Like, yes, let's dazzle, let's be out. What I'm chewing on is irrelevant. And the other piece to that is I try to always think, how am I going to feel at the end? What am I going to feel at the end of this meal? And am I going to be proud of myself? I love to keep my future self in mind and I want to do right by her. And when I do, she's really happy with me. And that's awesome, right? So we've got a reciprocal relationship where I'm trying not to set her up for failure. And she is in turn feeling really grateful for me for doing the right thing by her. And so I think having that relationship with your future self by taking control of your present self is the way.
I love that, Heather. And I was just going to add one thing, and then Anna, I want you to get to come in and respond. That birthday example that I shared, I do this about a lot of things when I don't engage the foods that I would have engaged before that everyone else is eating. I ask myself, would having that food have made this occasion better? And 99.9% of the time, my answer is absolutely not. I didn't miss out on something on that birthday. I had so much fun having a beautiful dinner with my friends. We were laughing so loud. I'm sure other guests in the restaurant were annoyed with us. It was so much fun. It would not have been better had I eaten some of the dessert. It was not made less enjoyable because I didn't have it. I go back still and ask myself that. Would this event have been better if you had engaged that food? My answer is always no. I'm still keeping tabs on myself to remind myself why I make the choices that I do. All right, Anna, you want to hop in and share anything?
Yeah. I'll just say a few things in response to that. So because of Heather's meeting yesterday, she challenged me because I said carnivore is really the way I need to go. So she said, just do it for 30 days. So now my Google Calendar at the very top, I have a daily event says 30-day carnivore challenge. So that's on there. And I think one of the things that happens to me when I go out to eat, I'm like, dang it, I should be able to have a thingamajig for one meal and not gain 30 pounds the next day. Like I should be able to. And I remember Heather saying, maybe sometimes that's just not possible for you right now. So when I get in that moment, maybe this weekend, when I go out to eat with family, I'll have that 30-day challenge in my mind. I think that'll help me get through that first 30 days. The other thing I feel bad about is when I'm sitting at the table with these people, there's also women at the table who should be on hormone replacement therapy, but they're not. They should be at the gym, but they're not. They're all obese and all these health problems. And I'm kind of the example. As bad as that sounds, I'm not losing weight, but dang it, I'm out there still trying. Perseverance is one thing I'm good at. And when I go and I eat the junk at the table, that kind of breaks my, like you said, identity for me and to them. Like, oh, look at her. She's indulging in all this stuff. So I kind of feel bad about that after every dinner. So I need to just cut all this out and just decide what I want and go forth. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes back to what Heather said of, thinking about your future self. How do I want to feel when I go home from this meal? I don't want to feel like, man, I was really demonstrating good stuff to them, and then I ordered that. I want to feel really proud of myself. I want to congratulate myself. Nice job. You did it. Everyone else got dessert. You didn't. Nice job. And I know these are complex decisions. So I love this energy you have toward this, Anna, and I love that you pulled that from Heather's meeting as well. So thank you for being on here with us today.
Thanks, Anna.
All right. Next, Penny.
Hello. Here's my question. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I started with Heather in June, and I have totally screwed up every 3 or 4 weeks for 9 months now. And I've been trying to figure out what does it? And I always go back to the same place where when I was a kid, I've been overweight my whole life. I was on Weight Watchers when I was a preteen, and my mom got me one of those Richard Simmons deal-a-meal for my 15th or 16th birthday. So I get going through, I'm doing really great. I'm losing, I feel good that I'm not eating the crap, and I'm finally feeling comfortable in my body. And somehow this little voice from when I was a kid says, even though it's me telling me that I don't want those things, I have this little kid voice that says, you can't tell me what to eat. And I self-sabotage myself every time, and then it takes me 7 or 8 weeks to get back on track again. So what mindset's going to tell that little girl to shut up?
I might invite you to think of it this way. It's not about making her shut up. It's maybe finding out what's really going on. What does she really need? Because oftentimes that inner voice, and often it's that lower brain, it is telling us something is off. I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm irritated, I'm bored. And unfortunately, it doesn't have a good response or answer to those problems. Its answer is, so let's go eat that problematic food. Let's go get our favorite comfort food, our favorite snack, whatever. But it is alarming or alerting you to there's a need. And I know this might go back to like Heather looking in the mirror thing when I first challenged her on this, but I encourage you to pretend this little young Penny is sitting next to you. What does she need? Because she doesn't need a snack, but she might need comfort. She might need to feel safe. She might need an activity to do or something. So I encourage you to listen differently, not make her shut up.
Okay.
I was literally talking with clients earlier today about this very topic. It's this idea of what Terry was just talking about. It's that all we hear is, I'm hungry. I'm hungry or I'm craving, right? That seems to be the answer to a whole lot of different questions, right? That I'm hungry is a response to I'm tired, I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm overwhelmed. There's too much going on. I'm fatigued, I'm unsure, I'm scared. So we have a whole cornucopia of emotions, and then we have one hammer, right? Like, okay, I'm going to just hammer them all with eating crap food, because I know whenever any of those things came at me before throughout my entire life, I would reach for food and I would feel better real quick. And so that's what we do. And that is our pattern. I'll eat and feel better. I'll eat and feel better. I don't want to feel this way anymore. How can I feel different? That'll make me feel different. I'll eat if I'll feel better. And that is a really, really tough pattern to break, because it's very reinforcing to have pain and then to have something to relieve the pain and have relief and a reward. Boom, how to build a habit 101. And so it is hardwired in. And so, kind of what Terry was talking about and what I talk about a lot, I know you've heard me talk about a lot, Penny, is really looking at our bandwidth and is, looking at our stress management and being very regulated. So often when I hear people say, I just felt like I couldn't control myself, right? I ate something and I couldn't control myself. And they'll use words like self-sabotage, and they'll use words like, I'm watching myself eating it and no, I don't want to, and I'm doing it anyway. And my mind actually goes to, what are your hormones doing? Hormones are incredibly compelling, and they can absolutely take control over that ship and get you to do things that your cognitive mind doesn't want to do. Where's my cortisol when I'm acting like this? Where's my insulin? Where's my dopamine? What is the internal state of the neurotransmitters that tell me I'm okay, everything's okay, I'm safe? Because they probably aren't online. And so we are eating to try and at least get some of those hormones online and make us feel better. But usually it's not solving the core problem, which is why we keep repeating that behavior. And so we need to address, like Terry was saying, let's investigate, why do I keep feeling lonely, unsafe, overwhelmed, fatigued, unfulfilled, whatever the case may be, that I'm trying to drown with cookies? That's not easy work. That's more of the work.
Okay.
Anything you want to share in response, Penny?
I'll try that practice you said, because it also reminds me of a meditation that I don't know if it was you or Heather, it might have been you, that you close your eyes, you imagine yourself hugging a child and telling them they're safe. And then when you were saying that, that's immediately where my head went. So
Yeah,
I will give that a try.
yeah.
Yeah, Penny, that's the metta meditation. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease.
Yes.
I teach it for you to do it to a child in your life, but that is absolutely something that part of the meditation practice is for you to say that to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. It's a beautiful practice. Coach Jamie taught me. Highly recommend it.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for being here, Penny. Susan.
I've been hanging around with Coach Lisa on and off for a couple of years, and I'm thinking that as I do this more and more, I feel like the mindset is growing in my mind as the key to what I still need to work with. So, where in the larger community should I be looking for more of these great ideas?
See, Heather, I knew this would be a great one to end with.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, there are a couple different ways that you can look at that. I think what Terri was maybe setting me up for is a program that I have coming up starting Monday, which is basically maintenance mindset, right? It is basically at the core of what I hope to work with the people that join my program over the next 12 weeks is what we're talking about here. Transitioning between that old identity to the new one, the actions that we can take, and the exercises that I think can help us find our way into that new mindset. As far as other things that we have in the community, Susan, as a member, I'm a lifetime member, I would and do at every single one of my meetings invite everyone to consider Jamie's meditation. Not only does she have live meetings Tuesdays at 6, but she also has recordings. It's funny to me. People invest in me as their coach and they come to me, like you mentioned, with the idea, wait just a second, I know what I need to do. I'm not doing it, right? I need help with the mindset work. And so I'm saying, okay, great. Let's talk about what improves mindset. How about a meditation practice? No, I don't really, I know. How about regular exercise? Well, no, yeah, reasons I can't, you know. So part of the process is being open to the idea that there's probably something missing if you don't already have, what we're talking about locked in. So I encourage everyone, whether you're in a coaching relationship or not, to be coachable and to be willing to try some of these things that Terri and I talk about. And so, like I said, I would highly consider taking meditation for a ride. The other piece to mindset, in addition to Terri's meetings, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday that are on mindset, I think all of us coaches, it's not just Terri and I that focus on this work. That is coaching. The reason that we're here is not just to teach people what food and fasting would likely help them reach their goals. We're here to help modify behavior and encourage us to reflect back upon you the choices that you're making, how they may or may not be serving you. And so when you come to our meetings and we start the meetings, with some people call it a diatribe when they're talking about how I start my meetings, a monologue I've been called, right? So we start with our thoughts on these topics. But, a way to dig deeper with the mindset work is being thoughtful about your questions. You have access to all of us coaches if you come to our live meetings, and we are ready and waiting and willing to get in the weeds on some of this stuff and talk about, okay, have you considered this? And so I think there's like a spectrum of opportunity to do this work, but sometimes it takes some self-reflection first and think, where's my holes? And, what do I need to work on?
I also encourage people every meeting they attend, afterward, reflect on what am I going to carry with me from that? Now, it might be a factual thing, like you attended something on glucose monitors or something, but especially since you know that where you want more focus now is on the mindset, was there anything discussed in this meeting, even if it was a more content toward science or something? Was there anything that anyone said that I want to incorporate into how I think and how I approach things? There also are a lot of meetings in our community, and again, not just mine, but Heather's, Amy's, Jamie's, Lisa's even, that are mindset focused or have a really strong mindset theme in them. So I encourage you to, it's almost like putting on your little mindset antennae and be listening for that. Because as you've highlighted, that that's the work that you want to be doing. Coach Kimberly also, hers, I don't remember. I know one of them is Friday at the end of the day, and I think she has another one earlier in the week, but she is incredible on mindset and affect, our emotional regulation system. So I also encourage those meetings. I think there are so many resources, and even those that are not mindset specific, there's always mindset topics being explored.
That's great. I think that does it. I just became aware that I go to my little group meetings and then I've paid for the community and I'm not really taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
It's time to let my light shine a little bit.
Absolutely. And remember, if some of those meetings happen at a time that you are unavailable, Many of them are recorded, so you can come home later and listen to it in your own time when it works for you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
And Terry and I have both talked about that, how we have clients that only see us and only think of TFM as one-to-one with us. And we're like, oh my gosh, you're missing out on all these other coaches that you have access to. When I joined TFM, I was like, where's Terry? I want Terry immediately. And she just wasn't there waiting for me for some reason the second I, joined the community. And so I started going to all the meetings. And I gleaned all kinds of things. She's my favorite, okay? I'm just going to say it. But I still love the other coaches and, got something from each and every one of them. And not just the coaches. Keep in mind, while we don't have a community of coaches, we have a community of people full of wisdom, full of a lifetime of experience that matches ours. They have walked the same walk as us. How many people, when she was talking about Deal a Meal and Richard Simmons and Weight Watchers, as a teenager, like, how many of us have been there, right? Like, when I first came, I was like, that's my story. That random stranger is telling my story. I am not alone. These are my people. I was born in the 70s, so I was a little girl in the 80s. I was the biggest girl in the room, right? I was the only fat kid. And I come here and that's what everybody else says too. And it's like, oh my gosh, where have y'all been this whole time? I was all alone. That feeling of I am so seen, right? These people have walked the walk with me. I am not alone. You don't need a coach for that. Sometimes you need a peer to know, like, yeah, my family thinks I'm weird to not eat too, and they've accused me of having an eating disorder, and they hate it that I'm low carb too, and they're sick of my ridiculous recipes too. And yeah, well, I have health that I want, and they can just shut it, right? All in the same boat. We are there with you. We are walking with you.
It's so great that you added that, Heather, because I was just going to say, and not only the coaches in the meeting, but oh my gosh, I have written down quotes of people and the mindset things that they have shared that are just those mic drop moments. I'm like, yes, I didn't even come up with that. They came up with it better than I could. So really be listening to each other in those meetings. I think it's a gold mine, really attending meetings. Again, if they don't fit in your schedule, listening to them when you can. So thank you so much for asking that question. Great to get to talk about that as we wrap up this meeting. Thank you all for being here today. Heather, thank you for your willingness to record this with us today. Really appreciate you. I hope that all of you have a couple of things that you heard in today's meeting that you're going to carry with you. See where you can work these things into your plans, your mindset work, so that you create this mastery that lasts you much longer than however many months you're in coaching or however many months you're working on your journey. So thank you all so much. And you'll be hearing this on the podcast. So take good care, everyone.
Make good choices, everybody.
Bye-bye.